welcome back to the Awful Music Podcast. Today we have Jay Denton, founder of Endure and Endure Studios. Jay is a writer, producer, and has an extensive military background. He still does training for military and security personnel. His project Endure helps those who are affected by conflicts across the world tell their stories through music. I think Jay has a beautifully unique perspective and some great insight into multiple aspects of music and combat. This is a special one today, folks. Let's get into it. We're gonna introduce our guest now.
Oh,
all right.
I'll take it.
So this is Jay. I don't even know your last name, Jay. What's your last name?
Denton.
Denton. Hell yeah, this is Jay Dutton. Jay, what do you do?
I'm a songwriter, producer, and I guess technically still, I teach a couple classes. I teach Krav Maga, and I write and produce songs.
Yeah, that's what I learned in music school was Krav Maga.
They go hand in hand, you know. Hand in hand. I've never actually mixed them at the same time. It would probably go badly, but
I don't know. It could make a badass movie. I'm just saying.
It's true.
You've been in you've advised on sets for fight choreography and stuff like that. Yeah.
You've also advised in real life about fighting,
yes,
not just choreography.
Yes. Yeah. In fact, I've had much more experience doing that than in the film industry.
Yeah, you were did that thing with you auditioned for a Yellowstone spinoff recently, right? Did that ever happen?
Yeah, I didn't get it, but I auditioned for it. I know it would have been great. I auditioned for something on Yellowstone
for reminding
too.
Me, Casey.
So they just didn't want me in either one. But,
every couple of months, Jay he'll text me while he's downstairs, be like, "Yo, come down," and I have to press record on the phone for him to say a line in an Irish accent.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
Oh man, I have the worst accents ever, but I'll just use them all the time because life's more interesting that way.
I don't know. Your Irish accent earlier was kind of fun.
All your accents are Scottish accents.
I don't think you can dignify. That's an insult to Scottish people to say that I have anything close to Scottish accent. I think I attempt multiple accents, and I don't think I nail any of them. I think I have some weird conglomeration between.
Yeah,
I used to do that internationally when I'd travel. I'd see how people would react differently to me if I would speak with different accents.
Oh wow!
And they do. You travel internationally. Yeah, you speak with an American accent, you'll get one reaction. You speak with a British accent, you get others. You speak with a Russian accent.
Wow.
Or true. Whatever terrible version of an attempt at a Russian accent I have. Yeah.
So, okay. Obviously, you have a history of combat. You don't have to go into specifics if you don't want to. But how do you go from training people for fighting into music?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's interesting. In some ways, music preceded the other.
Really?
In my life, I started writing songs. I grew up in Texas, but I started writing songs, probably when I was in junior high. I would just write songs. I had no intention of pursuing it professionally. I just would write these songs as sort of a release for me.
Yeah.
And just basically my life was like school, sports, and then I'd write songs at night. But I didn't know anyone that did music. I didn't think that was reality. I mean, I'd still thought that records got made where a band would go into a studio, they'd stick a microphone in the middle of it, they'd play their song, and it would sound like what you'd hear on the radio. And I was like, if I go into a room and I play the guitar and sing something, it doesn't sound like that. So, clearly I can't do that. But no, I got into Krav Maga in college. Me and my best friend, he had some family in special forces, some extended family in special forces, and they told him about it. We got into it. We started, going early in the mornings before classes in Los Angeles to a training center out there, and then we'd go a lot of times after classes as well. So I just started doing that in college.
I think it's a great. You're a pro, but. Martial arts was always a big part of my life too, and there's so much overlap I find between music and martial arts. And
how so?
I was actually going to. I'll elaborate on that, but one of the points I was going to make though was that I think that there's a lot, and Joe Rogan I think actually talks a lot about this, is that there's a lot that you learn. There's a lot of humility and improvisation that you learn in combatives that is, I find, really useful in the creation of music.
Yeah.
like everyone that needs a lesson in humility should go get on a mat or get in a ring or something, and the world would probably be a better place. And musicians in particular, especially ones who are like pathologically arrogant in their lyrics, I think are the best suited, the best candidates for that type of experience. And I think combatives makes you a better person. And I think that the wisdom that you gain from those experiences ends up, if you go into music afterwards, I think you end up just having a more positive and effective message to put out into the world, you know?
Yeah, holistically, I couldn't agree more. It's like, one, you develop discipline. You develop the discipline of knowing that you have to do something 1,000 times before you're going to be any good at it.
Yeah.
You know, and what?
Get humiliated.
Like
what's the first lesson you learn in fighting is failure, I would argue.
Yeah, you know? Or you feel like such a badass after you've trained for a couple months, and then you just get destroyed when you're sparring, you know, or training, and then you get humbled real fast. And then you hit that decision point, right? Decision point comes where you think you're a badass, you get humbled, and then the question is, are you going to leave it so that you can continue to just always have this platform of, you know, thinking you're a tough guy without having to have it tested?
Yeah.
Or are you going to take the long road to actually becoming great at something, which is the only way to get there is just like humbling experience after humbling experience. You know, you're just getting knocked around, you're getting tapped out all the time, you're getting hit. Nobody really enjoys getting hit. You know, I feel like something's wrong in my mind if I haven't gotten punched in the face after too long, but I still never enjoy it. You know?
Yeah.
I think there's in my opinion, an even deeper connection between music and combat. And I think that's instinct and rhythm. Like if you're actually in a fight, not just maybe it's the same way in a spar. I don't know. I haven't sparred in a very long time, but there's this carnal eye, like the eye of the tiger mentality, where suddenly you're hyper focused and anything that you do wrong could lead to you dying.
Yeah.
And just having that hyper awareness and that heightened action reaction type of thing, or having to adapt on the spot, I feel like really speaks to playing an instrument in its own way, like live, you know, having to just dig into that moment, be hyper aware, and instead of exerting force on someone, exerting emotion on an audience.
Yeah, and also that difference between training and then reality, which are totally different. And I think very similar thing musically, right? Musically with martial arts, you train with combat. You train so that in the moment you can go off instinct and you don't have to think. Because the moment you're thinking in a real situation, you're screwed, right?
And that's the difference between maybe you could call it a martial technician versus a martial artist.
Yeah. And essentially you almost have to become a technician before you can become an artist.
Absolutely.
You kind of have to learn the chords, you have to learn how to play some, you have to learn the scales before you can rip a solo. But when you rip a solo, you better not just be playing a scale, you know? Otherwise it's not gonna communicate, it's not gonna convey, it's not gonna work. And then same thing in reality. The moment you start doing things exactly the way it's trained, it's not going to work because every situation's different.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And there's a real practicality that comes to it. Like real fights, nothing even happens like sparring.
Yeah.
It's completely different. And so you have to be willing to adapt. You have to be willing to go with the moment. You have to be willing to just be completely practical. You know?
One of these most commensurate facets in the context of improvisation, I think, is like, I remember when I first started fight training and I was only training with other people who had like the same stance and like knew the same moves and shit.
Yeah.
You know, and like, so you learn like how to check from like particular positions, and you learn where to strike based on the position of your opponent, which you can predict, you know. But like, just like with music, where you learn how to play a solo over a particular chord progression, but in a real life situation, you can't get to point B the same way because point A changes, you know?
Yeah.
And that's that's one of those things I found commensurate with training fighting versus training music.
Yeah.
You know?
And honestly, they're both very creative. Like to be effective in comedy, you have to be wildly creative.
Yeah.
You have to see things in a moment, and you have to trust your instincts, and you have to just go with essentially the inspiration of the moment, and you have to do it decisively. You know, and I think you know, we've all been around the studios long enough and been around live where you can hear, especially if a lead guitar player is playing something hesitant, you can hear it. Right. And it's not going to rip. If someone plays something incredibly boldly and they even jack some things up, right, it's still going to be better than.
That's the take you keep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Again, it's the happy accidents. It's you slip and fall. Okay. That changes the dynamic of a fight entirely, categorically different, but you better adapt and figure something out quick. You know,
do you have a position on whether or not fear, as insofar as it's present in both circumstances, do you have a position whether or not fear should be suppressed or should it be wielded? Use your fear or deny your fear, reject your fear, pretend, you know, try to have no emotion or something, you know, whatever the fuck bullshit. I mean, obviously that just gave you
I think over time that doesn't work. Yeah, you can't really suppress your fear. You can suppress it for periods of time, but I really think in both avenues you have to learn how to walk with fear.
Yeah.
When fear hits you, it's not a conscious choice. It's a sympathetic reaction. You feel it, you experience it. And then where you become really good is when you can have that hit you and you can still act decisively in a moment and you cannot let the fear cripple you. Right.
I mean,
that's the difference.
That's the literally fight or flight reaction, you know, that they're exceedingly closely tied. Wow. Good job, Mike.
Yeah. I never found a stable sense of confidence in myself until the fear that I felt.
I'm just looking at your picture on the camera and like, I've never instilled confidence.
Yeah. In case you do look pretty profoundly relaxed there. It's good. It's good.
Yeah, it's because I'm confident. No, but I never found a stable or reliable sense of confidence in myself until like in fight situations and in scary situations, my fear actually made me better.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
10,000%.
Well, and fear can make you creative.
Fuck yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And like man, I mean, if that's not true for music too, like, I don't know what is. It's just so the case. Like
my
outside of your comfort zone is the place you just belong. Like
my ability for self-preservation is so fucking intense.
Yeah.
That like, unless someone's really trained, they might hurt me, but they're not going to kill me.
Oh, good for you.
I'll get away.
Well, that's one of the best, like literally the best sources of inspiration. When you're in a fight, is just survival instinct.
Dead.
And survival instinct is based on what? Fear of dying.
Yes.
Right?
1,000%.
Now, there can be a fear of dying that can cripple you if you're in a situation where you need to do something that could lead to your death, but it still needs to get done.
Literally, yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
And it's probably the best chance you have at surviving, but you're going to risk your life in the process, right? And so you have to be able to face those situations. But yeah, I mean, if you get rid of the survival instinct, you're in trouble. You're gonna do reckless things. You're not gonna make wise decisions a lot of times.
Yeah, or even for that matter, if you get rid of that, I don't think you're gonna have the reaction time necessary,
or the desperation.
Yeah,
that's an interesting point, actually. I wonder how much of that. Yeah, because that would be tied to your instincts. Man, but yeah, it's funny too because. It's like, have you ever realized, those funny moments where Meekin sent me, my fiance, for those who aren't aware, sent me this funny meme the other day where, because there's this, with guys in relationships, there's all these jokes about like things that men stereotypically do in relationships and things that women stereotypically do. One of the things men stereotypically do is when they go into the kitchen, I do this all the time, where's the ketchup? First of all, I don't look for where it is. And it's always in the exact place that it always was. And it's in the most obvious place it would be, right? But I didn't look for it. I just ask her, where do you put the ketchup? Where is it, right? And then I open the fridge. Ketchup's right where it's always been. right where it should be, and I don't even see it, and I can't
hate it.
and I can't find it. Right?
I'm the same way. I hate that.
Yeah, and then she's like, she sends me this meme where it's like the guy opens the fridge and the ketchup's right there. He's like, "Where's the ketchup?" It's like, and then the meme beneath it is like, is the same guy. There's a sniper 400 yards out in the grass. You know, these weird compartmentalizations that we have. And it's funny because it's you're at a funny point in your life where you're less afraid of having a gun pointed at you than you are. You're less afraid of being held up at gunpoint than you are when your fiance
tells you where the fucking ketchup is in front of your face.
Like is slightly annoyed at you for some reason. Terrifying.
Maybe it depends on the fiance.
Yeah, and women have no power in our
just,
society.
But I can't relate to this at all. I hate ketchup. I've never liked ketchup in my life. So I've never opened a fridge looking for the
where's
ketchup.
the ketchup?
Yeah.
Well, where's the milk, Jay? Oh,
Yeah,
you don't
true.
even do that. You did
That one's a little easier.
Almond shit.
Yeah, go salsa. Where's the salsa? Man, there's like everything makes milk now. You got rice milk, you got cashew milk. What was the latest iteration I got here at the stew was nut butter.
Just what? Just the way that they name these products, nut.
They could have thought.
Yeah,
it's true.
Really,
it's like you wonder if they knew. If that was an oversight, or if they were just like,
it's like those kids. Like there was a kid
in my connotation. Let's go.
There was a kid right down the hall from me in the Berkeley dorms. His name was Richard Small. Like his fucking parents. These kids' parents. Seriously.
It is horrific.
Yeah.
Poor guy. Is he cool? Is he alright?
He was the man.
Cool.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Man, when I was at OCS in Quantico with the Marines, there was one guy with last name Dick, and
that's the best.
It was just he had it rough from the beginning. Everyone was just on him the entire time. Every DI had a heyday with him. You know, and he was short with giant round glasses. So
shit.
Yeah. Poor guy, man.
I love that.
Poor guy.
There's a I can't tell the story. Never mind. 'Cause I don't know.
Okay, so thinking about it that way, that guy has a choice. He's obviously getting more shit than everyone else. And he has the choice to either rise above it and be the fucking strongest man of all time, or he has the opportunity to be crushed, absolutely decimated. And I don't know, would you rather be in that circumstance where you have the potential to rise above that and be impenetrable afterwards? Or would you rather...
Man, it's a great point, because you always say to yourself, when you see these people with these names, for example, I'm always like, the first part of me is one part of me is like, why didn't they change their fucking name or something? But then the other part of me is like,
just embrace it.
The other part of me is thinking, well, man, imagine being you're in your 40s and you're killing it, and you have this ridiculous name, and it's this obvious stamp of resilience at that point. Because it's like everyone knows, man, that guy survived with that name all these years.
Yeah,
he must be awesome.
Are you getting some ideas for what you name your first child?
But I don't know if I would have the constitution to be the stronger guy after that. I don't know.
The reality is that none of us know.
None of us know. Yeah.
I mean, we think we know how we deal with situations, and we don't until we're in it.
Yeah,
and
true.
we can train for things so we can be more likely to make X, Y, or Z reaction in a moment. But the reality is we don't know what we're going to do until it happens. You know, how many moments you play through a conversation in your head, right? You're going to walk in and just have a conversation with somebody, like a confrontation or something. You think how it's going to go. Or you're going to break up with somebody. You break up with your girlfriend. You think you know how the conversation is going to go. 30 seconds in, no, completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, I'd argue a lot of times it's a miscalculation of who you thought they were and who you think you are. You know, it's a combination of the two, which makes it such a spicy dance.
Yeah. Or People are complicated. You come in and you have your first line and you think it's going to lead them to say this. And then you say that. And then you say your first line, they say something completely different. Your plan's out the window.
Yeah.
To go with. That's like an acting principle, right? Is you have to go with what's actually hitting you instead of what your preconceived notion of lines are. I think it works with music too. Or think about stuff in the studio, especially when we're recording stuff. It's like, okay, you have this idea that this thing is going to sound great. You do it. Something's not working when you're hearing it back. Okay, you got to roll. You got to do something different. You got to adapt.
Yeah.
And the best moments in the studio happen when you do something that you didn't expect, or that moment happens, or you copy pasted something and you forgot this one section. You put it in the wrong spot, and then all of a sudden you like hear this moment in the track that sounds amazing, and it was completely an accident. Right?
Oh my gosh, that happened on Sunday. I was at the bar with a guy who I'm actually going to start bringing to Fridays. He's a producer. He's working on this thing that's like a fusion of like a pop country song with retro wave. I don't know. It sits in a weird space, but he sent me over. Like I was like, give me these things. I want to try and remix it. I'm gonna give it a shot. And he sent me the bass MIDI. But he didn't remember that bass MIDI was for a synth bass where the overtone was louder than the fundamental. So he gave it to me a fourth down from where it was. And I thought that's how he wrote it. Because like I'm playing back this bass synth track. I'm like, this sounds terrible. What are you doing? Mute, you know?
Yeah.
So I got this whole thing with all the bass lines a fourth down. That actually sounded pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, exactly.
It sounded a lot jazzier, that's for sure. It was really neat.
Yeah.
And with fourths, it would. Yeah.
You pitch something wrong. Yeah. I put the capo on the wrong fret on the guitar when I'm doing something. I'll be like, oh, this would sound way better voiced here. And then, it's just all those things.
Yeah.
You just gotta go with it.
Yeah, that's kind of been the name of the game for Yuka and I. Definitely for the song that we did that's coming out this Friday.
With all the vocals recorded on your iPhone. I love that.
Yeah, we did that, and we made as many of the ugliest sounds as we could. One of which was vomiting. That was great.
Which I will say, your performance on that vomit was pretty impressive.
It was awesome.
Yeah,
that's funny.
I don't think I could ever do that performance of a vomit. I don't think I'd ever want to, but I definitely wouldn't be able to pull it off if I did it.
Yeah, thanks. I'll take that as a compliment. But yeah, there were times where like we wanted to come up with a harmony for something. We would just move a pitch shift around until it sounded as awful as possible. We're like, that's the one. That's the way, literally, like usually that's the joke in the studio. It's like, oh, there it is. It's done. Everyone's joking. He's like, no, this time we're like, no, we're going with the worst thing we could possibly create, the worst sound we could make.
Or those limitations make it interesting. Like you throw something in there and you're like, this sounds terrible, but I have to find a way to make it work in the track. And then you do all sorts of weird shit to manipulate the sound, and you come up with something that, you never would have played.
Yeah, it's true.
So
it's true, yeah.
I realize I never actually really answered your question.
Which
about,
question?
Fighting leading into music.
Oh, that's fine. I mean, please do. I feel like we had an awesome tangent.
What a very good long tangent.
Yeah, I mean, well, what do you think? I mean, was it that you saw something in one or the other, like that was in common? You saw things in common. Have you ever drawn inspiration for music from your experiences with combatives?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say, it was an interesting experience for me because the summer between my junior year of college, I went and did Officer Candidate School OCS with the Marine Corps up in Quantico, Virginia. And I'd find myself writing songs when we're doing these, like, there's something called the endurance course, which I think is around 3 miles, but with a bunch of obstacle courses built in there. Yeah, and you're just running, and that would be sort of my mental escape. I'd start writing songs in my head while I was running, or we'd go on these backpacking trips. I'd be writing songs in my head. I lived in New Zealand for 6 months. I did a semester abroad there, and I'd do these like backpacking trips where, I'd just be walking for like 4 days straight through these mountains, and I'd be writing songs in my head. And then that night I'd kind of scribble it down on a notepad or whatever. But
And those are obviously or likely songs inspired by the experience you were having.
Yeah. Yeah. There were other moments when I would do some work in Lebanon. Yeah, something would happen, and then later that night, a song would come out of it. So yeah, I always think this. I think good music comes from inspiration, right? In some way, shape, or form. And it not always in like this way if you have this wonderful inspiration. Sometimes inspiration happens when you sit down, you're just like, we're going to write a song. And you kind of have to beat the muse into submission, so to speak, and just say, we're going to find inspiration here. We're going to do it. But and things that happen to you in life, especially when you're involved in like high intensity situations, those affect you. And change the way you think about things, change the way you think about really everything. In fact, it's kind of fun. I'm doing this project right now with veterans, right?
You should talk about that. The creative vets.
Yeah. But before we get into that, what's the I don't know, the project camp or whatever, this operation we're sitting in right now? What's the name of that?
Well, so we're just sitting in Endure Studios. Then I'll do different camps out of here. So,
okay, gotcha.
Yeah, the idea is here. What we've got the capacity of doing in this space is we got the capacity to bring people in, whether they live locally in Nashville or whether they're coming in from out of town. We can have people come and stay here, especially for about a week at a time, like 5 days, say. And we can stay here and we can just work on music in multiple sessions in the different studio rooms all day. And what's cool about it is, you have a group of people, say we got 9 people and we're working on stuff for 5 days. Well, you mix and match. Like one day you're working with this producer, you're working with this artist. The next day you're working with this songwriter and this artist and this producer. And both like the camaraderie that gets built doing that and just the different types of inspiration that hits you when you're in with different people. It's pretty magical.
That's awesome.
It's been really cool to see. And a few weeks ago we did a camp where it just had veterans come in.
I've actually been talking to Chris.
Chris Bickle.
Yeah. Yeah, we just talked to him today.
So what's the deal with having veterans come in? Where did that spawn from?
So with Endure Studios, I started an artist project just called Endure. But it's a project I want to do where I want to go back to some of the places I've worked in different parts of the world, whether it be conflict zones or whatnot, that I've done other types of work in. I want to go back and actually record albums with people that have been affected by various conflicts. So, for me, originally that was me thinking about going and making a record in South Sudan with former child soldiers from the LRA.
Wow.
I was there. I was spending time with a guy named Sam Childers, who was there in Nimale, South Sudan. He was kind of fighting against the LRA, started an orphanage, and was basically his thing was he'd team up with some of the freedom fighters in Southern Sudan, and he'd rescue kids from the LRA once they'd been taken into this militia group, and led by Joseph Kony, really horrendous, terrible organization. So Sam did some amazing work getting kids out, and I got time with him there. In fact, really, I started talking to him. I wanted to just work with him, go fight with him out of college when I graduated. But I got over and was doing some stuff with him in Nimale, South Sudan. Yeah, I started writing these songs just inspired by some of these kids' experiences, right? And then I came back to Nashville at the time, which is where I was based. And
what year was that?
That'd be maybe 2011.
I was going to say 10 or something. Okay.
Yeah. No, I think it was maybe 2012.
Okay.
Yeah, the end of the world in the Miami. Yeah, that's when we went.
Because the first, one of the first things that we did together was Endure Studios Lebanon.
Yeah.
Where you went to write songs with Syrian refugees.
Yeah.
And there was one song that I co-produced and sang on, I believe.
Yeah, I didn't. I'd done a job. I'd been in Lebanon several years before that trip, and I was doing some kind of informal EP work, executive protection work, but I met a lot of people in the Syrian refugee community that really kind of blew me away. One, with their resilience, and two, just these people that have been through more than we can really imagine going through in our hometown.
Yeah.
Right. And just getting uprooted, family members killed. It just, they had to leave everything.
For anyone wondering, Lebanon is like real close to Tennessee here. There's a Lebanon, Tennessee.
It's definitely the one in Tennessee. not the one in the Middle East. Not that one. But so I met some great people in that community. And one of the days we were walking through, the guy I was working with had a meeting with a guy that had a studio there, a little studio, and they would do mostly like voiceover work and stuff like that, transcriptions. But I remember that moment I had that idea. It's like, I want to come back here at some point and make a record. And that I really hit a crossroads. When I came back from that trip, I remember I was pacing in the airport in Houston, the Houston airport. And I was just trying to think like, okay, I'm either going to, this is the moment I decide career trajectory wise, whether I pursue a career in special forces or whether I try to start my own thing in music and start my own studio. And I thought about it, because if I was going to jump in, I've been training for buds and some of the stuff that would go into that with the SEALs and swimming and everything. And so when I decided to go the music route and build a studio, I thought of it as like, okay, well, buds, various segments of it. But I was thinking, okay, I'm going to take 18 months and the rest of the world's dead to me. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to learn how to produce. I'd produced a little bit before, but I'd really been like a top line songwriter, right? I was a songwriter that would go and work with different artists, work with different producers and write songs for their records. And so I was like, I've got to learn how to produce, and I'm going to just give it everything I got. So yeah, fast forward a few years and I went back to Lebanon, and I made a record with Syrian refugees, which is pretty incredible. One Iraqi refugee as well. And, but that record we did in...
Can we get links to that to put in the show notes?
Sure. It was an incredible record, man. Worked, some of the songs it's part of it's in Arabic, part of it's in Kurdish, both Syrian Kurdish and Iraqi Kurdish. Part of it's in English. We've got artists from Lebanon, Iraq, actually really just Syria and Iraq, singing,
the one that
singing
I sang
alongside, artists from the U.S.
May I do a little splash?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, the one that I sang on had what was her name?
Sozda,
yeah.
Man, Sozda. So there was this girl, incredible girl, man. She lost her mom in the war in Syria, moved down, and was just kind of by herself in Lebanon as a refugee. Her early 20s. And she took she heard about what we were doing. Cause some of, friends of hers had started working with me in Beirut on this record, and they started messaging her. She took a bus in, to get to Beirut, like a half-day bus ride to get in. I started working with her, man. Just a gorgeous voice. Yeah. Like incredible voice. Yeah. We did this thing where we kind of wrote the song, and then I felt like she had something to say, and I didn't really speak. I can't speak Arabic that well. I can speak enough to sort of get by in the streets, but I can't have like a detailed conversation, right? And so I just started playing this track and left it wide open, just a pad in a key with a drum beat. So there's nothing that would kind of dictate where she'd go melodically, man. And she just went off. Yeah, she sang about Afreen.
That's on the record?
Yeah. Okay. Well, basically, we took
what's the name of the song?
That one's called Ishamen. Isamen, and I'm probably still pronouncing it horribly wrong.
You're fine.
But Isamen, and we did that. I used a lot of the audio from that, and then had her come back in, and we worked on actually building a song around essentially what she just started improvising. But yeah, man, that record was incredible. So long story short, I made that record in 2019. We put it out in 2020, and filmmaker Jake Green,
I met Jake. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's right. You met Jake too. He's one of our
ANCAP homies. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean by our white man?
What is my race?
Oh, is in the ANCAP world? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. He was trying to do a documentary on ANCAPism as well. Whatever. So.
Yeah. He's part of the libertarian
Mises
party
Caucus.
movement. Yeah, the Mises Caucus down in Georgia.
He has the same sticker on his suitcase that I have out on my car.
Yeah. Yeah, but man, Jake's awesome, and he came and shot video, did a documentary of the whole process of making the record. But the coolest thing is he would get these backstories. He'd do these interviews with the translator, with the refugees that I worked with, so they could tell their story. And then he had an animator come in that would animate their backstory a little bit, because obviously we didn't have footage from Syria and the war.
You gotta see this documentary.
Yeah, word. Okay. What's the name of the documentary?
It's just called Endure Lebanon.
Endure Lebanon.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so then the next project I was going to do in that series, right? This kind of Endure series where I go to different conflict zones and make records of people that have been affected by that conflict. The next one I was going to do, I was going to go back to East Africa and work on this project with former child soldiers. And then COVID hit, and East Africa was on tight lockdowns, man. They made even some of the lockdowns we had in Los Angeles look tame.
Wow.
And so I postponed doing that, and then I had been working with this former Army Ranger named Rocco Vargas, who's an actor. He's in the show Mayans.
The Sons of Anarchy spinoff.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I started working with him, and man, it was awesome. I love the experience working with him. He'd shoot me poems that he'd been writing, like when he'd be deployed overseas, or when he'd be, then he came back, was working with Border Patrol. He's just had a really eclectic life experience, right? Baseball player, but he would just write poetry, sort of as an outlet. So he'd send me these poems, and I'd read through them and go through them, and then I'd kind of find one that would inspire me. I'd write a song kind of based on that poem. I'd shoot the idea back to him, kind of make a track, sing a guy, and then we'd start writing the song back and forth from there. Just sending things back and forth. And so I got the idea when I couldn't go back to South Sudan to make this record yet. I was like, I think the next one I'll just do domestically, and I'll do it with the veteran community. So I'll be doing this record with, in fact, actually technically the first single on that comes out Friday.
Is that the one that Casey worked on?
No,
we didn't. We didn't finish that one yet.
Yeah, okay. I did a camp, maybe a month ago, about something 3 weeks ago, with veterans here in Nashville. This is a song I wrote with Rocco a little while ago, and then we got another former Army Ranger, goes by the artist named Tyler Hates Life, as a rapper, down in Georgia, and we got Rocco, talked to him. We got him to rap on this song. And so, it's going to be really a triple release. It's going to be Rocco Vargas, Tyler Hates Life, and Endure. And then this will be essentially kind of the lead single from this album.
Hell yeah.
Endure veterans.
Yeah. I heard the one that you handed off to Casey, and I was really surprised, because when you think like, oh, we're going to bring these veterans in and they're going to make some music, all real adorable and everything. They probably have no musical experience. That dude's voice killed.
He's great voice.
In case you didn't tune him, right? Or did you tune him?
Oh, God, no.
Okay, yeah, he didn't tune him. He sounded really good.
Yeah, no, Brooks, he's coming in tomorrow. Brooks Herring, he's great, man, and he's going after it. Yeah.
Oh, great.
And he's going after. I mean, he's pursuing it full time.
I think that's awesome that you give. Like,
he's a professional singer. Like, he's a seasoned professional musician too.
Okay,
like
gotcha.
he plays on Broadway like a few times a week, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he works as like a physical therapist, and because he's gotten out of the military, he's working as a physical therapist on the side, and he's looking to just shift into full time music. He's great.
He's
man.
very good. Yeah,
his
guy
voice
too.
Amazing. Yeah, great guy. He's got so much to say as a person, which. To me,
he's smart.
Still, the key of music is you got to have something to say.
Absolutely,
and he's got so much to say. And he sounds great. I love.
There's one of those. One of the Stoics, I think it was Seneca, said that to be an artist, you have to have earned a perspective. So, part of what I love about your veterans project, all of them, honestly, right, is that they're all the subjects are all people who have suffered through
some very serious perspective.
They've it's one hell of a way to have earned a perspective, had something to say, some wisdom,
Yeah, you get guys like Chris Bickle. Chris flew down from Baltimore, right? Stayed with me for a week.
Listens to power metal, by the way.
In this camp, yeah. I mean, Chris has a 20+ year career in special forces, right? And now he's looking to shift completely into music, right? He's at Berkeley School of Music.
So that's
right now.
more what you're doing with bringing the veterans in, is trying to give them a segue, for lack of a better term. These guys who really want to do it. Is that what's going on, or is it?
I think it's kind of a mix. Yeah, because to me, it's a mix. Because one, I mean, like as songwriters, especially when we write songs all the time, right? I mean, I'm writing songs. It's kind of my job in a sense to write songs all the time. But so as songwriters, what we're constantly looking for is we're looking for like something unique, like a story to tell. Yeah. Something, even if we're writing a similar topic that we've said before, what's an angle on it that's different? Why am I going to write this song today instead of just replay a song I wrote 10 years ago?
Damn good point.
And to me, at this point in my career, I don't see much value in just writing another song to write another song. To me, I think every song I write, every additional song that I write, especially if I'm going to produce it and put 40, 50 hours into the track before it's, all said and done, mix, master, everything, or however many hours I put into it, it's got to be something I haven't done before. There's got to be something new. It's going to be something fresh. So on the songwriting side, I mean, it's not really like a charity thing in a sense, because I love working with this community. I love working with people who have a very specific life experience that I can learn from, talk to, and that inspires me differently when I'm writing a song with them, right?
Yeah, there was nothing about this that felt, as someone who was involved in it, that felt like it was charity.
Yeah.
That was not.
I think
these are legitimate people. These are people with shit to say, who are serious about making art.
Yeah, like, and that's what I felt about some of these Syrian refugees, man. So's could sing me and most people that I know under the table, right? And she's this like 20-something-year-old Syrian woman who, is teaching school for little kids because she just has no opportunities with music. Now, she ended up going on like the Kurdish version in Northern Iraq and Kurdistan, right? She went on like the Kurdish version of American Idol.
No shit.
And she crushed it, right?
Hell
so
yeah.
now she's starting to really take off. It was cool when I was in Beirut. I had some meetings with the United Nations, with the UNHCR, and they were interested in what we were doing. So they sent a crew down. They did like a little
what's that?
UNHCR. It's the section of the United Nations that deals specifically with refugees.
Okay.
Yeah. And so they came in and they did a story. They kind of like filmed me working with Sosta for a day, did an interview with her and everything like that. But man, like she's kind of launched, and now she actually has kind of the basis for a career. And I mean, I might have been just a tiny little piece of that. I think she was going to get where she's going anyways because she's so good. But to me, a lot of like with these projects, what's exciting to me about it is it's like they offer me something that's really unique. Right. And hopefully I get to offer them something. It's like, hey, let's come and make a record.
What's that called, Jay? What's that called?
Are you looking for an S word? What are you looking for?
If you want,
synergy? Is that what you're looking for?
I was going to say a beneficial relationship.
A beneficial relationship.
It's beautiful. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
That's the way. I mean, you could call it business or not. I mean, I would consider that an enlightened form of business. I think that's the way business should work. I think it's awesome.
Yeah. It's interesting. I thought about doing a 501c3 for these international projects, right? And actually it'd be really nice if I did, because then I could get funding for them, right? But I decided not to because, I mean, once you form a 501c3, you have all sorts of rules and regulations on what you can and can't do with your projects and your money. I was like, well, let me just keep this as a business. And if I lose a bunch of money doing it, at least I can make the project I want to make. I can lose money on my own terms.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. So,
almost like you made a decision. Yeah. And this scary thing called capitalism didn't like make you have to make money.
Yeah.
Oppressed into making money.
Yeah.
Oppressed into providing value. Yeah.
Oppressed into providing value.
Can I have some of your booze?
Yeah, it's just Miller Lite. Yeah.
Oh, no, I don't want one. Do you have any whiskey?
It's all Jay.
Yeah, okay. Jump in either one of those.
Sick.
Except for this. What is this one?
The Japanese one is his fucking. That's his birthday gift.
That looks great, man.
Dude, try it.
Can I try it? Here, let me try some. I've been on Irish.
Is this
I've been telling Mike I'm on a mission because I'm a Scotch guy. I'm on a mission to find an Irish single malt that I like as much as some of the scotches I like.
None of these on this table belong to me. These
Dude,
are.
You said I could have this one, right?
You can have either one.
Okay.
Have whatever you want.
For anyone watching, the nickname that Casey gave to Jay is Captain America.
Oh Lord.
Okay, well now that we've sufficiently contextualized it, Mr. going all over the world. We going all over the world saving fucking cats from burning cathedral spires. Me and Meek and my fiance used to have this joke, like whenever if we try to call you and you didn't answer, like where's Jay? Oh, he's off saving the world, Mr. Captain America.
It was Meek and for one birthday one year, she drew me this picture.
I just told him
that painting of Captain America with my face on it. No, it's it's flattering, but no. But I do love working with in these different communities, and I really love bringing the musical element to it.
I've been so
that is so fucking badass.
It's so badass.
I'm so happy about that.
I've been every time you decide to bring me in on one of these, I'm so grateful and honored for the opportunity. And
this is a man who wishes he wasn't living anymore.
It's true.
When did that take place?
I'm just over it.
When was that moment?
Every
time we record a podcast, he's just like, I'm done.
Just kill myself. No more. Enough with this one. Okay, it's too much life.
You gotta find that purpose, Case.
Too much life.
You gotta find that purpose.
I've recently, it's weird, man. Like, because for it's funny. For you, because this is such a stark contrast. You find that purpose and inspiration from working with these artists who have like, there's so much story and narrative there. There's so much fodder and emotional depth and everything. And like I used to be that way with writing songs. Like I used to need to feel like, and we wrote a bunch together, dude.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, every solo song that I have out, except for the last 3, you wrote with me.
Yeah.
Except for the last 3 in Getting Dark. That one I wrote alone. But every other one of them,
like Getting Dark a lot.
That's a great
my
song.
audience for the
He
record.
plays
Yeah,
that,
man,
like,
it's such a cool song.
I'm so glad you guys like it. But every other one of them that I have out, Jay wrote with me. And man, like for us, for years, when we were writing songs, and it was all stuff that we wrote for my solo shit. And there's a bunch more that are great that I can't wait to finish, to put out.
River Night, man.
River Night, Ghost in the Light.
Yeah.
Tons of great ones that we've written that I haven't put out yet that I'm going to. We used to do this thing where we'd write, where before we wrote a fucking note, pretty much, I would have a concept. I would have a concept or a title idea, and I'd be like, I think I want to say something like this. And it was always something really heady and intellectual and political.
Yeah.
And we would, before we wrote a note of a song for like the first session of a song that we were writing, whatever, before we wrote a note, we would debate it for like 3 hours.
Yeah, we have a 3-hour argument.
Like argument about the topic, how to say it the right way. Is it even true?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
am I even right? And
Yeah.
a lot of times you just thought, no, I'm an idiot. No, Casey, what are you talking about? You can't. First of all, you can't say it that way. Second of all,
some contextualization, if I may, if I'm allowed to.
Of course.
So Jay is Christian, for lack of a better term, and Casey is
Satanist, atheist Satanist.
Yeah, like somewhat determinist to a degree.
Well, so the interesting thing is Jay and I have been best friends for years. Jay's a Christian who believes in some government. I'm a satanic atheist who believes in no government. And Jay believes in free will. I don't. So we have all
the fucking free will argument.
Oh yeah, man. That is a fun one.
Always
That's a fun
comes
one.
back to free
A
will.
bottle of whiskey and free will, man. You got an interesting
all
night ahead of
night,
you.
all night, dude. Yeah, and so we disagree on a lot of things that people would think are the things you like need to agree on to be friends. You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
But we like that we disagree on all those things because what we do share are values.
And
as
also
long as
you guys respect and love each other.
Yeah. And but part of what we liked, part of why we were drawn to each other as friends at first was disagreeing about things.
Yeah, because we'd
That's
have
the best.
conversations.
Yeah.
It's interesting when you have a conversation where you say something, someone's like, "Yep, I agree," and then they say something and they're like,
the
"Yep."
fucking
Yeah,
fucking ANCAP hangs that are just a fucking circle jerk. I can't fucking stand it.
No, I don't know.
Can't
I
You
stand
did,
need,
it.
but I
you
disagree
need
with
me to
every-
jump in and throw in a little statism.
Yes.
Yeah.
The funny thing is though, is that everyone in that group of friends I disagree with on something, right?
Yeah.
I'm pro-choice,
Well-
atheist. They're all Christian pro-lifers, right? But like with you and I writing songs together, and all of them, I still go back and I think I love those songs that we wrote together that are out. The ones that aren't out are great too.
Mhm.
Can't wait to do that. But the ones that are out that we wrote about stuff that like you don't even necessarily agree with, but that's where they started. But we went and we found common ground. We figured out how to say what I wanted to say, but in a way that we both agreed with.
More universally.
Well, to me, I think or we'd find a way to say something that would communicate to people with both different beliefs.
Yes,
Think like Ghost in the Light. One day you have to put that out.
It's so good, and I can't wait to. Yeah.
Jay needs a payday.
Yeah, you got to put that out. But
Yeah, well,
I mean, with that song in particular, so much of it was about really like the mystery. What is the ghost in the light? It's what is behind the veil of the things that we can't understand, right?
the thing that you see is just an infinitesimal part of whatever is really true.
Yeah.
That's
And
the light is what you see. The ghost is what's so, and that's
and the
title,
concept of
Ghost in the Light.
infinity, eternity, which obviously we can't wrap our brains around.
Yeah.
But to me, some of the magic of that song was the fact that we wrote that song having very different meta narratives, right?
Yeah.
Worldviews.
Yeah.
And so to come at that song where we both have a very, very high reverence for mystery,
Yeah.
right? And I think both of us have a fairly good degree of humility in terms of knowing what we don't know.
Yeah.
And
I would agree with that.
yeah, being able to admit that we don't really know shit
And there's
compared to
really-
what there is to know.
Yeah, and like humility to me is the greatest mystery of all, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
God damn it. It's all right. Take your time. It's fine. I'll come around this.
Pastor Casey is about to,
I was
Give a
doing the
sermon
Jordan
here.
Peterson, the heavy silence.
No,
Right?
you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Go for it.
No, just I mean, it was only honestly really just that mystery is just the most infinitely humbling notion, and that's what that song was. It feels kind of stupid to talk about a song that ain't out there yet, but I can't.
Yeah,
I need to share that to you, by the way.
Yeah, sure.
I also need to show you River
Give me
Night.
case you could fix that. You could put that song out between, now and
I didn't
when this
even
airs.
record the what I want. I
Probably
actually
be less than a week for the record.
Yeah. You got a week, bro. Let's
You
go.
got 1 week, dude.
It's already
Oh, yeah.
recorded. If you just don't remix
not
it for the
recorded.
37th
the
time.
vocals are not recorded. No,
Jay, I need to show you. I need to send you
no,
that
we have
meme.
a great.
Okay, any we're gonna nerd out here for music in a second, but anyone that mixes with different plugins, the bane of a song when you're working with Casey is if you work on a song with Casey and
then he
it's
gets a new
recorded and it
plugin.
sounds great, you have to forbid him from buying any new plugins. Because if he gets one new plugin, he's gonna remix the entire damn thing. He won't accept any of it. Yep.
That's true.
Oh, you had like 4 that you were ready to put out, and you got a new plugin. You're like, nope, got to redo all
They're
of
all
them.
trash.
Yep.
Yeah.
UAD 1176 trash.
Yep.
Terrible.
Okay.
No, that's one of my favorite ones right now.
I know. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but in a week, who knows? Yeah. Hey man, it's part of the it's one of my favorite parts about doing music is that in the same way that like this market being so saturated with all this content constantly accessible, so easily accessible, there's just always some new bar that I'm setting for myself. I don't want to stagnate. I feel like I'm fucking up if I'm happy with where I am. If I'm happy with where I am, I feel like I need to fucking I'm wrong. And I love you.
I love you. This is like probably one of the biggest reasons why we're friends.
Yeah, right? Yeah,
Honestly.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Stagnation is death.
Yeah,
It is, yeah. I feel like I'm dead.
Move or die.
I want to die in the first
Move or
place.
die.
So
Yep.
last thing I need is another reason to want to kill myself. So I just need a new plugin because I'll kill myself if I don't get a new plugin.
So that's why you're like, there's not enough coming out. I need to make my own now.
Yeah,
The closest case he's ever
right.
come to theism is when he got the plug-in the God particle.
Okay,
Yeah,
I have that now.
Yep.
It's legit.
Oh, it's amazing.
It's really good.
I think it is touched by the divine. Yeah. There's some.
Shout out
there's
to
some,
Jason Joshua.
Yeah, that thing's amazing.
Yeah, it's great.
fucking great. Dude, this pod has been fucking fire for the record.
Yeah, it's great.
It's been awesome.
Yeah, I mean, hearing it's so rare, honestly. Like, I've never met someone like you who has devoted oneself to the conceiving of the types of projects that you spend your life doing. I mean, most people who want to make music, most people do it from a much more egocentric place, I think.
Yeah.
You seem like there's obviously, you find great personal fulfillment in it, but you do that through giving voice to the voiceless.
If I can quickly add too, also has the means to fucking make it happen. You know what I mean?
Achieved the means to make it happen. Yeah,
sure. Yeah. I mean, whatever you want to call it.
A lot of people who want to, a lot of artists who want to
do all these big things.
Put their art onto the world are kind of deadbeats. And
well, I just think, man, this is where the training side, the combat training side, the martial arts side comes into play. It's a lot of fucking work, man. I was 29 years old and I shared a bedroom with another guy. We had twin beds on either side of the room and like college dorm style. And I had a production desk crammed into a corner that was a folding table with a folding chair. And that was my studio when I started out, and he's like, and I mean, the choice that hit me was, okay, well, I have zero ability to produce. I have I have no gear. I can't afford gear, but I have this program and I have a microphone. And so let me just start. So I started producing out of this room. I was writing songs with this one artist from The Voice, or these two artists from The Voice. Funniest meeting I ever had. Her manager called and was like, "Hey, I want to come over and meet with you guys," because she liked the songs we write. So she's like, "I'm going to come over and meet you guys." I was like, "No, we should really go somewhere to meet." She's like, "No, I'm coming to you there. I'm gonna come where the magic happens." I was like, oh. Okay. So her manager comes into my 2-bedroom apartment that 3 of us lived in, and I shared a room and we literally were sitting, this artist and her manager were sitting on my roommate's bed, twin bed. Me and the artist I was working with were sitting on my bed having this conversation across the room, right?
Yeah.
Room was no bigger than this. So, all that goes to say, there's so much, like in the music community, I think one of the crippling things is this idea that if I have a talent, I'll just get discovered. If you take that sports mentality or that martial arts mentality, that combat mentality, which just is like, I am going to go and I'm going to grind and I'm going to get good. I'm going to suck at this tremendously and I'm just going to keep going. I'm not going to take no for an answer. I'm going to suck a little less each track I do. And then over time you can build it.
Can I quickly add to that too? An extremely critical part to both sports and combat is strategy.
Yeah.
Like wisely choosing where you're applying your work as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like those two combined are success.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember one of the when you and I first when I kind of first threw my lot in with you, and I because I my mom and I are really close, and she's a powerful force in my life, and like whenever I make a big decision, I find it necessary to justify it to her and ask for her wisdom on it, And I remember one of the first things I said about you was I told her about your life story, and I knew that because my mom's always like, she says shit like, "Oh, well, he doesn't have a hit song. Why aren't you? He has not a number one.
Good point.
Whatever."
It's like, do you know someone who has a hit song, Mom?
she'll say stuff like that just to test me on it,
Yeah.
Because she knows it doesn't really matter, right? But I'd be like, no, well, Jay's gonna attack this business like with the mentality of a soldier in combat, that's what you've done. I mean,
Mhm.
I've seen you grow exponentially over the years that we've known each other and worked together, and it's incredible. And I see the beginnings of the empire that
Hmm.
you sought out years ago, telling me about, and this house
Yeah.
I remember was one of the first steps
Mhm.
in the building of that, and I moved into it when you first bought it.
I think honestly, it's interesting. I find probably at this stage in my career, right? It's sort of the level that I'm at. I'm probably the least talented of all the people I know that are at that level.
You have to feel that way.
Yeah.
You have to
But-
be in the room where you feel like you're the least talented person.
Yeah.
Those are the rooms that you should always seek to be in.
Mhm.
I do, right?
But I think to me, what I found in music is so oftentimes you have these creatives, right, that are really amazing at something, but that something is a piece in a puzzle.
Yeah.
And for it to all work, they have to be the other pieces to the puzzle.
Yeah.
And a lot of people quit because they try to make it, nothing seems to work. Well, it's just because they're a really damn good one piece of the puzzle. And if they could connect to the other 15 that would need to make this thing really go, they've got all the potential in the world. But they either have to get good enough at those other pieces of the puzzle that they can at least do something that works, or they have to connect with people and team up with people that are good at the other things, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like kind of my role in all of this, it's kind of, and it may be shifting. It'd be interesting if we have a conversation in 10 years to see what my role is like then. But I kind of had to sort of learn how to do every piece of the puzzle. And now I'm starting to get to a point where, well, I could do every piece of the puzzle. I'd write a song, produce it, play all the instruments, sing it in my bedroom and go, right? Mix, master it, send it out, and it could be used for something. But it's shit compared to what I can make when I'm working with some other people that are really good. And I let myself be one piece of the puzzle and let them jump in. And so what we're kind of building with Endure Studios is this idea of, well, let's just get a bunch of really great people in a room in the same house in the same studio and let people spend most of their time in their realm of genius and try to spend the least amount of time in the realm where they have to do it normally. But if you got someone else that's better at it, let them do that piece.
Yeah, fucking A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we can build that, that's where you can bring people in that, okay, they might be newer to the music industry, but man, they've got a story to tell.
Yeah.
So if you can team them up with the right artist, the right producer, you can have an amazing song, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise it might take them they might have to take my journey, take like 15 years of making music, before they can get to a point where they can really make things happen.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I learned from you is coming into this. For years, I had a lot of resentment towards people that were kind of like unifactorial in that way, where they could only do one thing, but then in order for the art to fruit, it required the reliance on all these other people who probably deserved the same amount of credit, but like didn't really get it. And that's not to blame the artist for that or something. But like the podcast that we did with Brandon Paddock, I asked him how he felt about this idea that, a lot of times as producer writers who can play everything will be working with an artist who can really just sing and co-write the lyrics. And then everything else about it is done by me or him or you, and that as that person who really is the one that finishes everything and is like the creative vision, the curator behind the production, the arrangement, the textural palette, the song, like you start to kind of build resentment. At least I did. You didn't, but I did start to build resentment towards these people that would like pay me to do everything and they could just kind of sing and co-write the lyrics. And I would be like, where do you get off calling yourself the artist in those situations? Yeah. And I remember complaining to you about that one time. And then you went on this diatribe to me that changed my mind about how, like you just said, they're a piece of the puzzle without which the puzzle would never be completed. You know?
Yeah, it's the whole like Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak thing, right?
Yeah.
So Steve Wozniak was the brains behind any of the Apple products, right? He's the engineer that knew how to actually make these things happen. But Jobs had a vision, right? And a lot of times his role in the thing was an iPhone or a phone comes in at, can't remember the story. And he's like, it's not small enough. They're like, we don't have any more space. And whether this actually happened or whether it's just the myth has the same meaning. He dropped the device in water and some air bubbles came out of it. And so he was like, hey, see, there's space left. You can make this more compact. You can make smaller. So to me, I think of it in that regard. And trust me, I've definitely shared the same resentment sometimes. When I'm working through like mix notes on a project where, I've basically finished the mix and I send it to the artist and they're like, oh, what if we try this like completely different production, which is going to take the song back 6 steps before it goes 40? Yeah. So I'm not immune from that resentment at all. But the way I think about it, if you're working with a good artist, that artist is essentially the vision caster for what this sound is going to be like. And if you're working with a good artist, you're going to make something, even if you do the entire track, you build every instrument, you play everything on it, and they write the lyrics with you and sing it. You're going to make something different than you would have otherwise.
Yeah.
And not only that, but you couldn't make that song without them being there. And if you look at it that way, it can be a salve to some of that resentment. And you can look at it and you can look at you can look at that artist that you're working with.
He's going to say free will.
I was not going to say free will. I was not going to say free will.
Sorry,
but you can utilize your choice, whether it's real or just perceived. Right? But if you as a creative, right? If you're the creator that has so much more experience, but you look at another artist and you look at it that way, it can help protect you from a lot of resentment. It can make the process a lot more fun, and you're going to make something that's a hell of a lot better than you would have otherwise. Because I don't think we make great work if we're just pissed off. We're like, I'm just going to make something and hope they're happy with it.
So I fully agree with you. You should enter every circumstance with maximum gratitude that you're able to hold at that moment, at every moment, without diving. Pardon me. Without diving too far into the conversation, because we're running up against the time, I still think that there is a lack of credit given for the people who do that much hard work, for lack of a better term.
100. I think for songwriters and producers, especially songwriters and producers, I think they're the equivalent of like a film director versus an actor.
Kind of, yeah.
In a lot of ways, you think of it, especially it's a singer that comes in and maybe they don't write a lot of their own songs, but they got a great voice. Maybe they don't play an instrument, but they're a great singer, right? They come in, they really are. They kind of become the actor, if you will, in that film. And you, as the songwriter producer, you're the Steven Spielberg. You're the, throw out your favorite film director, but you're the one who ultimately, the responsibility for how good that record is on you.
Yep.
It's not on the actor, but in the moment, if the film's great, obviously the actor, the actress is going to be the one that's in the limelight. They're getting all the attention. And you know what? I think part of it, especially for us as men, we just have to say, this is part of our lot in life. You just got to embrace it.
Stoic.
You got to be, I think there's tremendously more satisfaction at having something amazing happen that you're the source of, you're one of the reasons that it came to be. There's more satisfaction in not getting the recognition you deserve than there is in getting more recognition than you do deserve.
I wrote a song about that.
That's a great point. Yeah.
I wrote a 13-minute song about that.
Too long.
All right. No, wasn't. Either way. All right. Jay, thank you so much, man.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Would be absolutely honored to have you back on.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, there's a lot more here. So
there's way too much, I would argue.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's awesome as hell.
Start of a good thing.
Fuck
All right,
yeah.
gents. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Have a good evening, y'all.
Cheers.